TrueNorth.bet is built from the ground up to be the credible, dependable, and safe gaming experience with the best customer service in the market. TrueNorth.bet focuses exclusively on Canada and Canadian players from coast to coast. And TrueNorth.bet has an incredible offer for you. They will match your first deposit up to $500 in bonus funds. All you have to do is visit TrueNorth.bet/SDPN and register to get this incredible offer. Again, that's $500 in bonus funds with your first deposit. TrueNorth.bet/SDPN. Which of the Canadian teams do you believe will make the deepest playoff run?
I'm going with Calgary. I think it's the safest bet if we're doing this. Let's call the playoffs what they are. And I think we're going to get into this more on Thursday. There's so little between so many teams in the league. Like, I think we're going to, I don't even know if we're going to be able to call them upsets, but there's probably going to be some surprises. But, when you're looking at this kind of exercise, I just look at the road through the Pacific Division to be slightly easier than what the Maple Leafs will face trying to come through the Atlantic. I think Calgary is very playoff ready the way they play, yes. And they control a lot of the play at 5-on-5. They don't give up a whole lot. They've got a great goaltender. I just think that they're a team that's built to grind out 2-1 and 3-2 wins at the toughest games of the year. And those factors, to me, suggest that they're the most likely to make that run. That being said, if it ends up being even Edmonton, Edmonton's sort of quietly come on here in this later portion of the schedule. I know they lost Sunday, but they've gotten better goaltending, much better goaltending than they were getting under Dave Tippett. I think that's been probably the biggest change in their team. Their penalty kills getting back to respectability after an early season swoon. They obviously have the impact sort of game-breaking talent, but that's sort of unchanged from other years. But I could see Edmonton going on a run, and similarly, I think the Maple Leafs are capable of it. I just think it's going to be tougher from where they are. And so I'll give Calgary the edge on the way they play, the division they play in, and I feel a little safer about Jacob Markstrom than whatever version of Mikko Koskinen, Mike Smith, Jack Campbell, Eric Källgren, maybe Peter Mrazek, give the Oilers and Leafs.
Okay. This one from Danny99 on Discord. This is also a bit of a more serious one. We all know that Gary Bettman is simply the spokesperson for the owners. So if hockey fans want to see real change, it feels like a seismic shift will have to come at the ownership level. Outside of Jeremy Jacobs, which owners are most opposed to change? Which owners are more positive towards change?
The second question's easier. Tom Dundon is someone in Carolina that has actually even gone on the record and talked about wanting to have that play-in format for the playoffs, which we discussed recently. And I think because of, his background isn't primarily in hockey, he comes at it with sort of an open mind. I have to be totally honest though. Like we don't have a lot of access to the owners. And so I don't have a good handle on who's opposed to change. It's a fair question. It's maybe one I have to think more deeply about before giving an answer. I think Ted Leonsis has always been a pretty, relative to his peers, pretty thoughtful guy about change. I remember back when no one was doing this, he was like publishing his emails, for fans to reach out to him. He used to, answer their questions in a public forum. Again, someone who's entered the sport, not through the sport itself. And so I think views it as a business, maybe a little bit differently than someone who's come through. But, I don't have a great answer for that. I'm just being honest. It's not that I'm scared to say, but I don't know exactly where all that opposition is coming from, other than to think, there's a fair number of owners that feel a certain way. These tend to be older, white, conservative leaning people. Just by age and demographic that own these teams. And so, I think that viewpoint ends up being reflected in the way the business is to this point. But, again, some of those things are changing. There's females that are part of ownership groups now. And when you go to a board of governors meeting, you do see women walk into the room. It isn't all white people, even though it's primarily white people. So, there's still that room for change, but I can't tell you who's I can't tell you who's dominating those conversations because unfortunately they don't invite me into the room for those meetings.
Next question from Canadian Chapter on Discord, which, by the way, if you haven't already, sdpn.ca is where you can find the Discord link. It is a really great time. Hang out there, have some fun, kick it, ask some questions at all the different channels. I think they're doing some special stuff for the postseason as well. So you want to check that out. From Canadian Chapter, how active do you think Seattle is going to be in the offseason?
Pretty active. I mean, I don't necessarily see them being huge free agent players, maybe add a player or two there. But now it's going to be a slower build for them, right? They've compiled a fair number of draft picks. We see Matty Beniers start to play his first couple games here at the end of the Kraken season. He was their first ever pick last year. I think now it's doing it the old-fashioned way, which can take some time in terms of drafting and developing those players into impact players. You're going to want to insulate those people, and that's where free agency or trades come into the mix to make sure there's first of all, that you're getting better and you're not, you don't want to be finishing at the bottom of the standings every year, and you're creating a safe place for the young guys to come along. But so, I think they'll be reasonably active, but I don't see this being a team that feels they have to make the playoffs next season. As nice as that would be, they wouldn't turn it down, but I think it's going to be a slower build up. Especially because this year probably went a little worse than they were hoping, I think, if we're being honest. And so you got to reevaluate things constantly. The future is going to be bright because they're in a great spot with very few or no bad contracts on the books. They have more flexibility as they transition to becoming a more competitive team, and they've got tons of draft picks that they have to make good of first and foremost.